Hello, viewers. This is JIBRIN Angle, only on Oweleketv. I am Rachel Abioye. Let me give you an exo before you think of going to do something in the kitchen. We have lots of issues to be discussed on the program today. First, we'll look into the legal case as regards to doctor sentenced to life imprisonment for raping his wife's niece. You know, why many Nigerians are excited, they are happy that he was sentenced to life imprisonment, many are saying that judgment was extreme. We'll look into that story. We'll also talk about Tinubu's case with FBI and the latest occurrence regarding the presidential election petition tribunal at the Supreme Court that ended on a sad note for many Nigerians. We have Barrister Austin Manta, as always, on the show.
Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleketv. This is a show that we discuss on this show the matters that borders the law, politics, and the gospel. Generally, we talk about current affairs that touches on these three topics I just mentioned to you. Today, we shall be talking about several issues that borders the law and politics. At the same time, we have our special and regular guest, Barrister Austin Manta, who is a principal partner of AA Manta & Co., whose office is situated in Kaduna and Abuja, respectively. And he is an erudite lawyer with legal pedigree. When I mention pedigree, it's not about political level, but when I say pedigree, someone that knows the law so well, who is so grounded in law, and whose judgment I seem to have very, very immense confidence in, because he has been tested and tried for the past 38 years as a legal practitioner. Today we shall be discussing about an issue. It's actually a legal matter. A doctor who was sentenced to life imprisonment for a crime that, in my own judgment, it's a very, very serious crime, but life sentence for such crime is something that is an overboard to me. And that is why I'm bringing it up to an expert in this to be able to at least give us a light, give us an insight of what possibly could be the reason behind the judge's such outrageous, I'll call it outrageous sentence, actually. Secondly, we shall be talking about Tinubu's case with FBI, giving you an update. We shall be updating you on the latest regarding the FBI matter. Thirdly, we shall be talking about the latest of occurrence regarding the presidential election tribunal case that the Supreme Court just concluded in a very, very sad note. These are the three topics we shall be, Barrister Manta will be enlightening us on, and possibly some other, a couple of, if we have more time, I'll bring up one or two other questions on a different note. So Barrister Manta, thank you so very much for joining us once again. Thank you for this time. We are, again, as always, honored to have you on this show today. Can you please, I don't know if you are aware of this case, this doctor who was sentenced to life imprisonment for raping his wife's niece. I don't know that why I had to bring this up. It's not for any reason other than that it's rape. I don't know. I don't know of now the current law, but rape in Nigerian law, a criminal law. I think rape has what I used to know is that it carries maximum of 14 years imprisonment. But when I saw this life sentence, I was surprised. Now, for my viewers, rape. I'm not taking the issue of rape lightly. I'm not just demeaning it sort of in any form or shape. Rape is a crime that, honestly, even if the Constitution says death sentence, I don't mind that. But however, but because I know that what I've known over the years is it has to do with 14 years, not I think maximum was at 14 years. That's what I know. But however, we have our expert here who actually give us take us into the detail of how this criminal law works and what could be the judges what could be on the judge's mind to have warranted this kind of harsh sentence on this doctor. Please, Barrister Manta.
Thank you, JIBRIN and viewers. The issue of the case in Lagos, where a certain medical doctor has been sentenced for life for having sexual intercourse with the wife's niece, is something that has dominated the public discourse in the past week. Let me give a background. The doctor in question, Dr. Oweleketv, happens to be one of the very few consultants on cancer treatment in Nigeria.
Wow.
This hospital is dealing with cancer treatment, cancer detection, diagnosis, and treatment. One of the very, very few that is in Lagos and in Nigeria by extension. The whole saga is rather unfortunate. But coming back to the real issue, the girl in question is a niece to the wife of the doctor. The wife has 2 children with the doctor, the husband, and the niece is living with them. The doctor is alleged to have been having this sexual intercourse for a course of 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
And it is not rape in the strict sense that we know, that you force a woman to have sex with. It's rape in the sense that the girl in question is considered to be a minor. He is alleged to be 15 to 16 years. Now, if you look at the circumstances, this is what really happens in Nigeria. We tend to go from one extreme to the other extreme. We react to situations in an extreme manner instead of looking at the problem with some measure of calmness. Of recent, there has been cases of rape, sexual assault that have become rampant in Nigeria, coupled with the insurgents, the Boko Haram, the insurgents, and other criminal elements. The issue of sexual perversion and sexual rape and these things have been very rampant and pronounced. In reaction to that, many governments have dusted up the old laws on rape and other sexual offenses and promulgated fresh laws ascribing new punishments. It is in that light that the Lagos State government also updated its laws on this and provided for life sentence. for incidences like this. There have been calls in various states in Nigeria for a death penalty to be imposed on some of these offenses. But let's get a grip of the situation. In Nigeria, people are marrying girls of 9 years and 10 years. They are going into marriage. And I can tell you that a girl of 15 years, in many instances, in many places in Nigeria, is already sexually active.
Wow.
That's the truth. So if it were an issue of forceful rape, having forceful carnal knowledge with the girl, that would be a different issue. It is a case of probably a dominant party, the man of the house, luring the wife's niece, who is a young girl, and having sex with her repeatedly in various forms. It was not forced, but because the girl is deemed to be a minor, the law has always been that there can be no consent where a minor is involved in sex offenses. So it's deemed to be rape for that matter. But I believe that the sentence is too heavy and too weighty for an incident where you did not force a girl of 15 or 16 years. That's my belief. The other angle to it, what I've been reading on the media space, is the role played by the wife. There are various allegations. The doctor has a house, a big house in Ikeja. There are various allegations on the media platform that the wife tried to blackmail the man when the matter came out to leave her with the house and go in exchange for her
quietness, silence,
for her silence.
Yes, silence.
And the man refused. The wife testified in court against the husband, and she has 2 children with the man. So when you look at the whole situation, I do not think as bad as the incident is, I do not think the interest of the infant children of this man was remotely considered. And you have to be careful in cases like this, what has gone on behind the scenes. The whole world is just looking at, this man has done this. As bad as it is, we still have to consider this matter with some measure of calmness. And I believe strongly that the punishment is overboard. The punishment is too harsh, and the punishment does not meet the crime. That's my belief.
Yeah, I'm glad you and I are on the same page in this. Honestly, that is what I thought as well, because I didn't know of these details. Now you just what you just explained right now is actually a news to me. So anyway, in fact, this even makes it even more ridiculous for the judge to actually go up to this length of sentencing this man to life imprisonment. For God's sake, that is outrageous. With all these dynamics you just mentioned, it's even making it even more infuriating to hear this, to find out that the judge actually, with all this, obviously she must have had even much more than we have in the public domain. It's the dynamics of the dynamics in the whole thing is not just straightforward. First, initially I thought it was real actual rape. She was forced. Not until now, you just mentioned that she was not actually forced. The only issue was or is that she's a minor. But as you just pointed out, honestly, marrying or having sexual knowledge or carnal knowledge with a minor is actually it's irritating to me. It's irritating. Honestly, it is. However, just like you noted, we have. I was it yesterday or 2 days ago. I had a royal a king or a royalty. I think a king or so of one of these western states just married a 13 or 12-year-old girl. This is a king who is supposed to be a father to the community or to the state. You can imagine that marrying, I think they said, I think about 12 or 13-year-old girl or whatever. So that's the point. Like you noted earlier, 15, 16, the girls of nowadays, they have gone haywire. They are just, their lifestyle, everything about them is just beyond what we used to know growing up as children, for God's sake. Anyway, I think that.
I did not mention the fact that the accused or the doctor had evidence, CCTV in the house showing that the girl in question had been having sex with either the security guard in the compound.
Oh my God! Wow.
So when you put all together, as bad as the situation is, not just that the girl is on the age, but that is a niece to the wife. The situation cannot be justified, it's bad, but the law should be humane. We should consider the whole circumstances.
Yeah, the whole dynamics.
Consider his services to Nigeria in the past and the ones he stands to offer, being a cancer specialist in a place that there are very few of them or probably non-existent. We should consider the fact that he has children, infant children to also take care of. And we should consider the fact that there is no criminal record. He's not shown to be or to have done this to any other person. So if you put all these things together and you put the reality on the ground, the sexual activity of girls, even from the year 10, most girls of 15, 16 have already have had many years of sexual activity. That's the truth. Even though it is not justified, I think the law should have, this is the appropriate place where we say the law should temper justice
with mercy. Yeah, you are right. It just reminded me of a case in the past, a situation in the past. The thing is, now, the truth is, again, there is no justification for this man to have done this. Honestly, there is no justification. However, some of these our girls can be, and one, it could be, it's possible the wife wasn't sensitive enough to probably contain or rather tame her niece. Secondly, the niece could have been one of these crazy girls who probably seduced the man it may not be direct seduction, but by her outfit or whatever she would have. Because I've had a situation in the past where my wife's niece was staying with us so many years ago. I think she was of the same age, I think 15, 16 or there, 16. She was less than, I can't remember then, but she wasn't up to 18. And she was dressing somehow, and I told my wife, I was literally the one always rebuking her. What is it? What are you putting on? My friend, go and change this clothes. God, I don't want to see this, whatever. My wife was careless about that, and I called her attention to it. I said, look, I'm surprised in your presence, these things are going on and you are not saying anything. This is me. This is my own experience I'm telling you about. So it could happen to anyone, whatever. If not that the grace of God was upon me, I could have been carried away, a sort of, by that nonsense. She was literally dressing half naked, a sort of. And I was the one who shut down that issue. And actually, she eventually did not stay. It wasn't that long, and she had to leave because I wasn't just comfortable with that. Anyway, that is just by the way. We'll move to the next point. So I hope women and women are listening to us. You need to sometimes, we all are human beings, flesh and blood, for God's sake. We have weaknesses. Human beings have weaknesses. So women, wives especially, you have to be forthcoming in doing the needful. You have to be the one. You are naturally in our culture, you are the director, you are the owner of the home. You direct, you are the one in charge, the home manager. So you ought to be sensitive to your environment, sensitive to everything. You don't just consider, men are not perfect. They are not God. They are flesh and blood at the same as well. So we are expected, women are expected, wives especially, are expected to be sensitive to their environment, help, at least also help, be a help, as they ought to be, to their husband, to be able to overcome some of these temptations that comes around us. It's sort of, so that is the point. Sorry for deviating. I didn't expect it this way because I didn't get the story this detailed in the past. So, but however, we need to move forward. Barrister, can you give us an update of the US, the FBI case against Tinubu? What is the situation right now? I think I read in a report that that a lawyer, the lawyer who filed for the case in the first place for the release of these documents, I think filed another another motion to expedite the release for the court to give a judgment to against FBI to expedite the release of these documents. What is the situation? Is that the current situation or current status of this FBI release case?
Like I said previously on this program, there had been a Freedom of Information request, and the FBI had voluntarily agreed to request a certain number of pages of data on Tinubu, 2,500 pages. And they scheduled to release them at the rate of 500 pages per month, starting with the month of October. For some reason, which I don't want to speculate, the lawyers that requested the Freedom of Information request went to court and asked for an expedited release of those documents. I believe they had in mind the scheduled hearing of the appeal, the presidential election appeal in Nigeria by the Supreme Court. They requested for an expedited release of the documents by FBI. On the other hand, Tinubu's lawyers had gone to the court in US and requested for a delay in the release, requesting for a 30-day standout for a further review of the documents, on ground that some of them are so they are covered by the privacy laws. So they wanted a 30-day period to review the documents that was promised to be released, to see if some of them are covered by privacy laws. What I know is that the court refused the request for expedited release of those documents. I have not heard the court's ruling on the application by Tinubu's lawyers to delay the release for and order a 30-day review of those documents. I've not heard its ruling, if they have ruled on that. But that is the situation. Now, that being the case, one would think that we are still on course for the FBI to release the documents they want to release for the month of October, barring any ruling accepting Tinubu's lawyer's request for a 30-day stand down. That is the current position.
Honestly, this Tinubu man of a man is just, I don't know. Honestly, the man is just extraordinarily, in the negative light, extraordinarily overboard on everything. The guy seemed to have dirty stuff everywhere, littered around everywhere. Obvious that's why he's fighting tooth and nail for this stuff not to come out to the light. It's unfortunate. However, as I said earlier, all these ones, while it is a delay tactics, I still do not anticipate this release to be a bombshell, in the sense that, honestly, substantial part of this release will be redacted, I bet you, because the president, the man in charge of the United States right now, Joe Biden, is just like Tinubu. Honestly, although Tinubu may be worse than him, Tinubu was into drugs, if not still into drugs, into so many shady stuff, that it's that is just unbecoming of a supposed leader, a sort of. But literally, it does the same thing with Joe Biden. They have all criminal history. Show me your friend and I will tell you who you are. That's exactly what. So, like, and because even the so-called government of Joe Biden they are in support of Tinubu right now. They are backing him. He is their stooge right now. So they seem to be, they'll have serious influence over him. Therefore, they will not want to release anything that would jeopardize their boy. That's my own take on that, because Joe Biden wouldn't do that. Usually criminals will always cover fellow criminals. That's what they do, sort of. So unfortunately. Anyway, we are expecting the release. There's no doubt it will eventually come out. That's one thing with but it may be delayed for long. It may not come out as expected, when expected. We'll eventually get it, but my fear is the current US. If it were the US of pre Joe Biden's presidency, like the Donald Trump US, that would have been perfect, would have gotten everything out. In fact, without even going to court, that would have been out. That is just it, a sort of. Unfortunately, the one we have on seat right now is the man there is. It's not somebody, someone can. It's not someone anyone can rely on. Barrister, I think that is it on this topic. We'll move to the major topic, the real matters arising. It was a shock to me. I don't know. I don't know if I will say yes, to me it's unprecedented. I don't know. You have to clarify. You have to it's arguably that it is unprecedented, because I've never had a situation where Supreme Court set a time for judgment, and all of a sudden, within a twinkle of an eye, suddenly just reversed course and brought the judgment much closer. What was the rush about? Even though I have my suspicions about the reason why they did that, What could be the reason for that? What is, because that was why I asked that question. Barry, look, was this the case of articles, the new evidence presented to the court, or the election tribunal case in its entirety? And you confirmed to me, I was shocked to hear that it's because I didn't. It was, I don't know. Can you explain to us what really happened with Supreme Court? This first, before we arrive, we'll get into the judgment. I need to know what played out, what exactly happened. Can you explain to us the scenario behind this sudden change of Judgment Day?
There was really no change of the judgment date as such. The appeal was heard on Monday, and the normal process in the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court is that whenever they hear appeals, they reserve judgment. Whenever the judgment is ready, they will give the parties notice. You will rarely find the court hearing an appeal and fixing it for judgment. What they do is they will hear it and reserve judgment. When the judgment is ready, they will call the parties to come for the judgment. This is what happened in this case. They heard the appeal on Monday. But what really happened is that, there were motions, applications to court to receive fresh evidence.
Yes.
And other applications. Now, in appeals, you file what we call briefs of arguments. And when you file motions, like motions for fresh evidence, you incorporate in your brief of argument the argument you would advance on the fresh evidence you want the court to do. So when the court comes to hear it, the court will hear your motions and also hear the main appeal and adjourn both of them for judgment. This is what happened in this case. The parties had already filed their arguments, written arguments, incorporating the fresh evidence and everything. So as at Monday, when the Supreme Court heard the case, it heard everything, including the motions for fresh evidence and the arguments on the entire appeal. And they reserve judgment. The only thing we can say is that the time between the hearing of the appeal and the delivery of judgment was very short. That is the unusual thing about it.
Was that an unprecedented situation?
It's I would rather say but it's not. No, it's not really unprecedented. There are cases that the Supreme Court can hear the appeal that day and deliver its judgment that day, and say that they will give reasons for the judgment on a later date. If they have unanimously, they have a conference. The justices normally have a conference, and if they have unanimously agreed that there is merit or there is no merit in the appeal, in urgent cases like political cases dealing with election, with election of governors, where time for swearing in and others are urgent, they can deliver instant judgment one way or the other, but give another date where they will advance reasons for their judgment. So it's not unique.
Yeah, but that is the problem is this to me sounds suspicious or looks suspicious, because I know first it takes time, especially these judges. Some of these judges are so lazy that sometimes it takes them donkey years for them to draft judgments, put all these things together. How was it this? Obviously, with what I have, going by the judgment, it's obvious by the schedule. It obviously means that they already have the drafts, all their drafts ready. So it's like it was, to me, it was prejudicial, a sort of, because they already had they were not ready to go into they already had their judgment even before the presentation of this additional evidence. So that is what it means already, because for them to come out this fast after the appeal, this is it's a complex issue. It's not an issue. I can understand some cases can happen that way. So there are some direct cases or whatever. But this is a complicated issue that has to do with the president, a very important, if not the most important the most important issue in our country right now. That has to do with presidential election, for God's sake. It's a very complex issue that requires detailed and in-depth thoughts. Not just come write some stuff and just put it out. So I think in my own estimation, in my own opinion, probably this is just prejudicial. They already made up their mind on what to do. They've been bought and paid for, sort of. Anyway, we'll come down to the issue of being bought and paid for when we go into details. So, Barrister, can you give us, even though in our previous discussion, I of course I told you I'm not expecting anything good from the Supreme Court. Honestly, I wasn't. However, even though I wasn't expecting, a part of me was actually having some kind of hope that something miraculous can happen. Can you please give us interpretation of what was the judgment that was given, and what is your legal opinion on the judgment?
The judgment was given in a summary. The petitions of the appeals against the judgment of the Presidential Election Panel, which is the Court of Appeal. The appeal by Atiku Abubakar, the appeal by Peter Obi were all dismissed as lacking merit. Now, in that dismissal, the court refused to accept the additional evidence that Atiku Abubakar brought via the deposition of the registrar of Chicago State University. Now, we have discussed part of this thing on this platform in the past. I told you that there is electoral jurisprudence in Nigeria, and there is a normal jurisprudence. And in respect of the normal jurisprudence, I told you that it is possible, and there's provision in the rules of the courts, including the Supreme Court, to accept additional evidence on appeal. But I also mentioned that in electoral jurisprudence, the situation is a bit different. And there has never been a time in our history where somebody has approached the court for additional evidence, particularly the Supreme Court, on appeal in electoral cases. I was not surprised with the judgment. I would have been surprised if it was otherwise. And this is mainly because of the electoral jurisprudence, the rules pertaining to electoral jurisprudence in Nigeria. I have quarreled with the rules that have been stamped with approval by the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals on election matters. Again, I will mention something that we always move from one extreme to the other extreme. We always go overboard in reacting to certain issues. There was the need to finish or deal with election cases speedily in a short time. In the past, dating back to 1983, the issue was the dragging of the judicial process, whereby a person could be in office for the whole 4-year tenure without a case challenging his election being concluded. And the Electoral Act attempted at that point to circumscribe the time limit for the courts to deal with elections. But the Supreme Court then, back in 1983, struck down those provisions of the Electoral Act on the ground that no arm of government can prescribe time limit or how the other arm of government can conduct its business. In other words, the legislature cannot prescribe how the judiciary, how and when the judiciary should conduct its business. So that position continued over time until it was felt that, look, let's put a time limit in the Constitution on when election cases should finish. So that is how the Constitution was amended to now provide a period of 180 days for a tribunal to conclude everything about hearing an election case. And then it also put 60 days for the Court of Appeal to also conclude the hearing of an appeal, and also gave the Supreme Court 60 days to also conclude. So when you put all these things together, you have about 6 to 8 months after an election has been declared for all cases all the way to Supreme Court to be conclusively dealt with. Now, as soon as that time limit was staged, the courts, the head of courts had to issue practice guidelines for the courts in order to meet the time limit. Now, in doing that, they went overboard, putting all manner of technicalities. Once you file your petition, there's nothing you can add to it. There are so many. So the whole thing has been so technicalized. Now, in respect of an election covering a small area, like consular, like House of Assembly, the area is small, and all will be well. But when you come to governorship, when you come to the presidential election that involves 36 states and the FCT, it's a whole new ball game. The Constitution says you should file an appeal within 21 days. That itself is a onerous task, a difficulty involving election that was conducted in hundreds of thousands of polling units. Now, when you come, the role of the Supreme Court, which I disagree with, is putting a stamp on some of these technicalities, because there were chances for them to rule one way or another, but they are carried away by the time limit that is fixed. Now, if you look at 21 days, I have done so many petitions in the course of my practice. I know the difficulty of a petitioner bringing petitions to court, because after the election results have been declared, you will discover that they are trying to collect evidence. They are trying to collect materials for going to court. The lawyer is in a very difficult position, because even while you have drafted your petition, even sometimes after filing, you will discover that they will bring you new and very serious materials on the election. But under our rules, you cannot add anything after. So 21 days is too small, it's too short a time to gather enough materials and present a credible election petition against a presidential election. Now, the one issue that I have criticized is that if there's any type of case or group of cases that should come to court in which there should be zero technicalities, it is an electoral case.
That is it.
Because it deals with the people that will rule us. It deals with the people that will superintend our economy, our social values, our human rights. People are going into positions that will derogate from our human rights. We spend our money, we rule us, we even take decisions that will lead to people being executed. That jurisprudence, that type of judicial process, to me, is the highest level and should have the highest priority. This is a type of case where no single technicality should be applied to defeat the end of justice. But the opposite is the case in Nigeria. In fact, this is the electoral cases, the jurisprudence that has 100% technicality. The slightest technicality that you involve in will lead to the dismissal of your petition. That is where I strongly disagree with both the laws and the Supreme Court's decision, because the Supreme Court, being the final court of justice, has leeway in interpretation of the laws and has leeway in giving openings for justice to be attained. So at the end of the day, we feel that justice has not been done. And the consequence of that is erosion of confidence in not just the judicial process, but our political process as well, our political and electoral process. The confidence of the citizens is eroded in both the judiciary, our electoral process, and our political process.
Again, excuse me. I think the report I got is that all the judges, no one single dissenting judge on this case. Is it true?
That is correct. The judgment was unanimous.
My God.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, barrister.
Let me make the point that, to me, I don't want to use extreme language, but I can see judicial cowardice in the whole process. I told you that if the judgment was otherwise, I would have been surprised. And I wanted somebody to surprise me. I wanted somebody to see that we are here only for justice. We are not here to immerse ourselves into technicalities and at the end deny justice or give the appearance that justice has not been served. Because one of the cardinal rules of justice is that it must not only be done, it must be seen to be done.
Honestly, that again, when I read that report, honestly, to me, that was a red line to me, because this is one of the most complicated or complex political cases I've ever had or experienced. Yet, the entire Supreme Court justices, not even one dissenting voice, not even one. It's alone. Actually, in fact, honestly, the people who did this are dumb. Honestly, the people who did it are dumb. It's obvious. Sometimes, I don't know, criminals. Generally, people expect criminals to be smart. I expect these criminals to be smarter than this. Even if you want to buy the entire judges, why don't you even pretend? Because this is what we call circumstantial, what you people, lawyers, call circumstantial evidence that this whole thing has been bought and paid for. Tell me, who in his or her right senses wouldn't think of this? A case that is as complex as such presidential, and the victory, everything about this whole thing is so complex. There is so riddled with irregularities, abnormalities, riddled with fraud and so many inadequacies. Yet, the entire Supreme Court justices went in the same line. The same line. This is just unbelievable. At least, sorry to cut you, at least, like I was saying, they could have at least, even if the entire judges agreed to play ball, somebody would have just said, okay, you guys are all I know you guys are all on the same page, but at least let us give the populace, let us give the public an impression that everything was done well. Okay, 2 of you. I mean, I think we have about 7 of them, right? 2 of you should dissent. Or even 3 of you. Let even 3 of you dissent. 3 of you dissent. 4 can go with the judgment. It's sort of, I think, try to even pretend, play smart. But no, they didn't. They refused to play smart because sometimes these people are stupendously desperate for anything. So thereby, that desperation beclouds their sense of reasoning. Please go ahead. You wanted to make a point.
Yes, I use the term judicial cowardice.
Yes.
Because the justices of the Supreme Court probably retreated to the comfort of existing electoral jurisprudence. We apparently do not have somebody like Lord Denning in the UK. Lord Denning was a radical judge in the UK. He stayed at the level of the Court of Appeal in the UK. And whenever he saw that the interest of justice would not be served if he followed the existing jurisprudence, the rules and laws relating to the hearing, he will just ignore them and make a pronouncement in the interest of justice.
That is it.
Very often, the UK Supreme Court, which is the House of Lords, they will strike him down and rebuke him, but he never wavered, and he ended up as one of the most prominent and most loved judge of the judicial system in the UK. We need people like that, both in our Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, who will come out and say, well, yes, the rules are this, but if we do this, it will not lead to justice. If we apply it in that technical sense, it will lead to injustice. So we want to err on the side of justice. So that is why I said there were some measure of judicial cowardice. The rules pertaining to these electoral laws are there, but some of them are totally absurd, and they can only lead to one and only one conclusion: injustice. I'll give you an example. The Supreme Court stamped and agreed with the fact that you cannot bring in witness deposition of people you have subpoenaed. Now, like I said before, the Constitution says file your petition within 21 days of the declaration of the result. These witnesses, like INEC officials, police, and government officials, they cannot come to my chambers willingly if I invite them to come and put down their statement, witness depositions, so that I will file in the court with my petition. It is only when the tribunal starts sitting that I will go with an application that I want the tribunal to order this person to give me his statement in respect of what he did. The tribunal will now make an order served on that person. In other words, the person is forced to file a witness deposition. Now, after I do that and I obtain the witness deposition, I file in court. I must have filed the petition before I'm going to even make that application. Now, I cannot, by this judgment of the Supreme Court, I cannot bring all those witnesses to court, because everything must be filed within the 21 days. So how am I going to go to the tribunal, obtain the court order, first bring these witnesses, take their statement, and put it together with the petition that is supposed to be filed in 21 days? It's practically impossible. So at the end of the day, what this judgment shows is that nobody can win a presidential election petition in the court. And the implications, those who are clapping and jumping up and down, there's nothing to be happy or proud of this judgment. The implications are far, far weightier. The next election, presidential election, will see killings, it will see money, all manner of fraudulent practices to make sure that the person is declared. Because by this judgment, once you are declared, it's practically impossible to get the declaration overturned in the court. So what will happen in the Nigerian state? It will be a fight to the death. So the judgment has not helped our political stability. It has not helped our electoral process. It has not helped us to progress on our democracy journey. So to that extent, I have nothing good or proud to say about this judgment.
Honestly, you were talking about the next election. Honestly, I doubt if there will be the next, honestly, because there can never be any better fertile ground for anarchy in Nigeria, either at least for military intervention, because you just mentioned the obvious. The whole judgment is riddled with technicalities. And this is just like you said, justice must not be served, but must be seen to be served. This is that when technicality is employed in any judgment, justice can never, the public will never see the justice, never see or view it that justice has been served. Obviously not. Especially in a case like this, a very sensitive case like this, you just apply, for God's sake. What situation, what other situation can be as fertile as this, as to cause an intervention in one way or the other, one intervention or the other, whether military or revolution or whatever, because this is just too much. This is too much, for God's sake. It's too much for Nigeria. We are suffering. You know, it's going to be a nightmare for us to watch and sit and watch Bola Tinubu rule Nigeria for 4 years or possibly for 8 years. It's look, you will just see the body language will just tell you that look, they have really come to harvest the Nigerian treasury, to harvest the Nigerian resources. That is just it. All they have come to do is just share. They have come to share within their cronies, within themselves. Between themselves and their cronies. That is just what is happening. By the time someone like Tinubu leaves this government, leaves as a president, Nigeria would have been milked so dry. We've not even seen anything. We better look, Nigeria. I was watching Amechi's former governor of Rivers State, Amechi's I think address or conference with the media. media conference or press release or whatever. I think I listened to him. One thing I like about that man, even though he too is not clean, but one thing I like about him, I followed him over the years. He's very blunt. He's very blunt, and sometimes even blunt. I remember where I even as the transportation minister to President Buhari then, even under Buhari's government, he criticized the government itself, even as the minister then, as a minister then. So he is a very blunt person who says it the way it is. He's not, most times if you watch his interviews, it's not a diplomatic person as such. He just said he may not mention names, but he just reveals some things. He's that kind of a person who says what they discussed in the secret. He brings it, what they think, the thoughts of the powers that be, their activities, he brings it to limelight. That is the kind of person. So I was watching his press conference, and he just literally said the obvious. And I think one journalist was asking him, what has he got to say about the past and the current president, the immediate past and the current president? He said it's not that he can't say that, he won't say anything. He's not even ready, because what would he say if he's not going to? What would he say that Nigerians are you telling me that Nigerians doesn't know about that this person has this document issue or the other? We all know, they know, but they still voted them in. So that is just the point. He said Nigerians, just like I always tell people, I said he has never seen people, a nation that is so tolerant as, I'm paraphrasing right now, as Nigerians. Nigerians can literally take anything. And that's why we are where we are today. That's why we are suffering. Nothing else. So the truth is, honestly, we Nigerians will need to learn to stand up. People we are so scared of dying. Why can't people be selfless? Why can't we learn to be selfless and do the needful? Honestly, and that is just it. And Nigerians, if Nigerians can't do anything, the military, the common Nigerians, they can't do anything. I just wish the military, we have some good ones. The lower ranks, like I always say, the ones that are probably junior officers, that whatever, that are not beneficiaries of this corrupt system. They are in the corrupt system. They know what is going on, but some of them are still good. They are outside the system. They are outside. In principles, they are outside the system. So I'm just hoping, because there can never be a better fertile ground. This is a situation where military will come, and honestly, they will have an overwhelming support. Any military, even the worst military man, at this point that we are, the worst military person comes to take over, I am telling you, everybody, it will be a sigh of relief to everyone, every Nigerian, or rather most Nigerians. Honestly, they will receive an overwhelming support of the population. And I just hope and pray that something is cooking somewhere. They are cooking something somewhere, because we can't continue like this. We can't continue. The Supreme Court have disappointed us yet again. We just can't continue like this, for God's sake. They are killing us.
That is where I always disagree with you on this issue. Why it is true that on almost every military intervention in Nigeria, the people have come out in large numbers to applaud and praise it. It never lasts. It's an expectation, but it has never been justified. When you look at what you say about Amechi, I listen to him, you see somebody who has gone up, he has been a governor, he has been a minister, he has seen everything. But you can see in his statements that he has lost hope.
Yeah. That is it.
Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
He's angry,
Yeah.
and you can see clearly that he has lost hope in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
At every point, when the military come out, people are expectant, they are happy, they come out to jubilate. But it does not last. Because even within the military, now, as it is, the same malice, the same problems that have permeated and ruined our political system has also permeated into the military system in the issues pertaining to the organization, recruitment, training, leadership, command of the army. The army is not isolated. In fact, not just the army, the entire security apparatus in Nigeria is not isolated from the problems that are bringing Nigeria down. So whenever you look towards them, I have my doubts, I have my caution that the recruitment into the army, the training, the command structure, and all do not lend credence to placing one's hope in them. That is my take.
Yeah, I honestly, I understand you because, like you said, these people, the entire corrupt system, they groom. When people bringing in, they groom people to come to follow in their footsteps. Exactly what is to follow the status quo. There's no doubt about that, and it applies to the military, including the recruiting of the military, recruitment in the military. There's no doubt about that. However, like I always say, I always tell you something. You and I differ in this area. We've always differed because me, I have my own way of thinking is different from yours. Why? Because you are a lawyer. You seem to be, you are pragmatic. You are practical. But me, I apply, sometimes I apply, most times, not just sometimes, but most times I apply my opinion or my thoughts based, I apply spirituality to it because I don't believe that there is whatever has a beginning will always have an end, no matter what. I've always applied spiritual principles to my thoughts and my opinions because I don't believe that something must truncate, must control, must bring a stop, put a stop to the pains and sufferings of Nigerians. And God can always use someone in the midst of devils. God can always, like the Bible, that the book of Psalms 23 says, in the presence of my enemies, thou settest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. There are so many, do you know what that means? Everyone there is a devil. And God brings up one person in the midst of devils and set up something positive and shines a light in the midst of darkness, very thick darkness. And so the military may be as corrupt as you say it is, which I agree with you. There's no doubt about that. I think I've written an article about the military in the past, some years ago. There's no doubt the military has been corrupted from the foundation of this country as an independent nation. So, and since then they've never been better. They've never gotten, it has gotten very, very worse. There's no doubt about that. However, I always apply spiritual principles to ugly situations like Nigeria, hopeless situations. Because when a situation becomes hopeless, the only next hope, only next area or line of a kind of a tiny dot of light of hope. Light of hope is spiritual principles. I am telling you, you know, Oka, I don't know, you still remember Oka school in 1990. You remember what Oka intended doing. Even though I was so much in support of that, I remember then, I was so much in support of it. However, I was so, because I remember when he started that announcement, I knew it. When I had that, when he started that announcement on radio, he started the announcement so early, it was too early for him. Otherwise, Oka had in fact, what we desire right now is the type of either Nzogu, Chukwuma Nzogu revolution, or the Oka kind of revolution. The Oka was a smart man, but I don't know, probably he was bedeviled with probably he was drunk or probably he was drugged, he was on drugs that because the actions he took was too early and it didn't make smart sense to me. That was what actually, otherwise by now we would have had a different system. What he did was his vision was a very, very smart one. If he had succeeded, if he had been smart enough to succeed, honestly, that could have been a different Nigeria. We probably by now would have obviously, hopefully, I think so, because Babangida is one of the genesis of this whole problem we are facing today. So that is the point. What I am saying is we are looking for someone that had that kind of Oka's vision, that had that kind of Chukwuma Nzogu's vision, that military officer who is somewhere in the military, no one knows, no one is listening to, no one cares if he or she, or not even she, if he is in existence. It's sort of, I believe that you are being pragmatic. I understand that, but honestly, Nigerian situation right now is hopeless. It's hopeless. The powers that be they are strangling, or their claws are holding tight. So they have a very, very strong grip, a grip that no one can pull out of. Very strong grip, only divine intervention. And the divine intervention is through human beings. God will not come down from heaven to intervene, to start wielding swords around. No, he will use human beings. He could use a military officer. He could use revolution. He could use either way, whatever. There are different ways God can intervene. And that is just the point. We can't continue this way. Nigerians are too patient. We are too patient, and this patience is killing us. I've always said something that I've always told people who care to, and that has been my slogan. Patience never lose. Yes, because it's a virtue. Patience, there's no doubt patience never lose, but we have been patient from the foundation of this great nation. It's been over 60 years now. We are still patient. At least we need to do something. Our patience can no longer be seen to be virtuous anymore, because it has killed several people. People are still dying as I'm speaking to you as a result of this patience. And that is just, and people will die if everybody keep just sit down looking, just keep sit down look, stop keep moping and hoping. Just like as Amechi said, Nigeria, of course, people are already coming out. Let's allow peace to reign. Let peace reign. It's just 4 years. 4 years, another election will come. It's just 4 years or 8 years. Before you know it, 4 years or whatever. It has been like that. The moment there is something and there's similar such situation, people comes out. Some our leaders, corrupt leaders, and some are innocently doing that for peaceful coexistence. There's no doubt about that. I understand that. However, until we do the needful, until we take the bull by the horn, honestly, the bull will continue to rampage the entire system, to continue to rampage the entire system. So that is just the truth, Barrister. Honestly, you and I will never agree on this. I understand that where you are coming from, but where I'm coming from is different from where you are coming from, and that is why you and I can never ever agree on this. I still hope and expect, not just hope, I expect the military to intervene. I am not, look, I have written an article on the violent revolution, advocating for violent revolution. Now, that is a last resort to me. I don't wish to see that violent revolution. I don't wish it because people will die. There's no doubt about that. This is something no decent or responsible person anybody who calls himself or herself human being shouldn't pray for. I dread it to see violent revolution. And that is why that should be the last resort. That's why I implore the military. I just prayed, I plead. That is just, I'm just saying it the way it is. Plead for someone to come salvage this situation. We need at least, if the military, honestly, military is even a better option, because if the military does not do it, the other option, which is a violent revolution, is deadly. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants that. Nobody. It's something that no one will ever dare to pray for. Nobody wants to see that. So violent revolution shouldn't be an option. So military is even better, like where someone takes over, and everywhere there is jubilation. Let me tell you one thing. Yes, always jubilation when the military comes up, but eventually the jubilation dies down, turns the other way. Look, like I always tell people, you are afraid of failing. You are afraid of failing. You want to do this. What if I fail? You want to do that. What if I fail? Let it come to that point where you fail. You tried, but at least have that satisfaction that, yes, I tried. I tried, but failed. Even in failure, you will have that fulfillment. Yes, I eventually, at least, I tried something, but I failed, but that's fine. Unlike, I didn't do anything, I didn't try, but you keep having this issue, this discomfort all the time. I want to do this. What if I do this? What happens? You'll be full, your entire psychic will be riddled with suspense, which will eventually keep weighing you down. Why don't you try something? Try it. Yes, it could fail, but try it. You will have that fulfillment, even if it fails, that I've tried something. Yes, let's try something. Let's try something to change the system. The system has to change. People are dying, for God's sake. So unbelievable. So now back to this release, this FBI release. Let's even assume the FBI releases this dossier and it's a stinger. It's a stinker. Yeah, a stinger, not stinker. Yeah, a stinker and a stinger. Both sides, that it comes with both weapons. What happens? The Supreme Court, there's nothing the Supreme Court could have done. Everything is dead. Anything, there's nothing legal that can be done on this Tinubu matter. What happens? Tinubu, that I know, now everyone knows, it will only come out as scandal. What happens next? What will you do? What can we do? There's nothing. Obviously nothing. The man can never, Tinubu will be the last person to honorably resign. He will never do that. He's a criminal and he will never do that. Criminals they don't know honor. Criminals don't know honor. All they know is power. That is all they know. And how to retain themselves, how to snatch and retain power. That's all they know. With all means necessary. Not even necessary. All means possible. Yeah? So that is just it. Now, in your own opinion, if I asked a question earlier and I'm throwing it to you, what happens if FBI release comes out and everything is raw, no redaction. And there are so many incriminating evidences, incriminating reports on Bola Tinubu. What happens, in your opinion? What do you think will happen?
Let me tell you that for now, nothing will happen legally. In our previous discussion, I told you that we operate a fraudulent democracy because democracy is underpinned by several factors. The balance of power between several arms of government and an enlightened citizenry, whereby they can hold their leaders accountable. It is expected in a democracy that when there is a lot of debt on the leader, the people who are presumed to be enlightened will remove the leader. Even under our constitution, there are several provisions for removing a president even without going to court.
Yeah.
There's impeachment by the National Assembly. There are other provisions as well. That is an ideal democracy. That is a democracy where the citizens are enlightened and can hold their representatives to account. It's a democracy where one arm of government can act as a check and balance on the other arm. But in this our kind of democracy, all these things do not exist. We do not have an enlightened citizenry that can support and uphold our democracy, because the factors that people use to vote here have nothing to do with democracy. We have factors that cannot sustain ethnicity, religious bias, geopolitical issues. These are issues that our electorate deal with, rather than issues of development, issues of capacity of our leaders and representatives. Now we have branches of government as between the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, which should act as a check and balance on each other. But where they don't perform their role, the whole democracy is undermined. In a normal situation, in the US, for instance, even as things have turned bad, if so much scandal should come up on the president, in one way or another, the president may resign, or the House will, the Congress will commence impeachment. We remember the case of President Nixon when he was forced to resign. When he faced apparent impeachment, he sampled the Congress and saw that he didn't have support. So he didn't wait for impeachment to happen. He had to resign. That democracy is a bit more mature than our own. Our own is completely fraudulent. These three arms, they don't perform the functions of holding or acting as check and balance on the other ones. The citizens themselves they are, number one, not enlightened, and two, they are unable, because of electoral malfeasance, in holding their leaders to account or changing them. So the whole thing is a fraudulent democracy that we operate. That is just it. That is why I have always said that nobody should say Nigeria is a democracy, because it's an abuse. What is happening in Nigeria is really an abuse of the word.
Yeah.
It's an abuse
absolutely.
of the word democracy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do not look forward to the army as people who can save the situation of Nigeria. I still believe that there's a window of opportunity for Nigerians to live together in the territorial space called Nigeria, if certain things are done, if the people who hold the power are forced to acknowledge that the situation has reached a place where it can no longer be sustained, and to make concessions so that we can fashion out a better system of governance that will enable people to compete within ourselves.
Do you know now? In an enlightened, let me use that word. Even though I don't like, I wanted to challenge you on that. That I wanted to tell you that Nigerians are enlightened. The problem with Nigeria is not enlightenment. I'll come back to that. Now, this is my point. Now, what you just said, what you just suggested now, can only be effective in a very civilized environment, an environment that is very, very civilized.
And that's all we have for you today. We discussed a disturbing case where a man was sentenced to life imprisonment for a heinous crime, bringing to light the importance of justice and protection of victims. We also touched upon the FBI case involving Tinubu, which has raised questions, and also the Supreme Court's judgment. Please join us again next time on our program JIBRIN Angle, which only airs on Oweleketv, none other TV station. I am Rachel Abioye. Bye for now.